Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about PlayStation 4 emulation with none other than Shad PS4, and Shad PS4's made even more improvements. Shenmue is now in game. In my opinion, this is pretty darn impressive for PlayStation 4 emulation and for Shad PS4. Shad PS4 keeps making improvements in leaps and bounds. Let me know your thoughts about Shenmue 2 going in game in the comments below. And on top of that, because we're not done talking about Shad PS4, if you are curious about seeing even more games booting up, I'll drop a link to Brutal Sam's YouTube video in the description below, and I do recommend checking that one out as well. Here is Red Dead Redemption up and running, or at least booting. Brutal Sam checks out about 16 different games, and while emulation for these games is not perfect just yet, the fact that a lot of these are booting and getting into game is incredible. And speaking about improving in leaps and bounds, next up we're talking about Grand Theft Auto 3 unofficially being ported to the Sega Dreamcast. And this has been improving quite a bit. They say after a lot of trial and error, near-plane clipping is somewhat working. Now, although it's not finished just yet, REGTA 3 GC is 100% free, it's open source, and it's up on GitLab. If you are curious about it and wanted to learn more about it, I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Next up, we're talking about PC gaming, and one of the biggest things I love about PC gaming is the fact that you can mod games. Not all games, but a heck of a lot of them. And someone has modded Kingdom Hearts 3 so you can play as Goku, including using his moveset. This mod has Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3, and Blue, and includes energy attacks. If you are curious about this one, it's called Project Dragon Soul Definitive Edition. It's up on Nexus Mods, it's 100% free, and yes, I'll drop a link in the description below. Next up, we're talking about Wine. Wine stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or Wine is not an emulator, depending on how you want to interpret that. Anyways, the development 9.14 version of Wine just dropped. So with this update, there's a bunch of bug fixes, there's more support for ODBC Windows drivers, and even some game fixes. For example, there's a fix here for Civ 1 that was incorrectly displaying some dialogues. There's a fix for multiple games that were failing to detect audio devices, like Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Conviction. Ys Origin no longer shows a black screen during video playback. Next up, we're talking about Donkey Kong for the Game Boy Color. Now, if you remember Donkey Kong for the Game Boy, it was not in color, and there was no DX version of Donkey Kong. Well, that's true until now. There's an unofficial fan-made Donkey Kong DX in the works. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to the tweet in the description below, and this game looks to be super cool. I really wish Nintendo made a Donkey Kong DX for the Game Boy Color because it looks fantastic. Donkey Kong DX is set to release in 2025, so there's still a bit of time before it comes out, but they say this has grown into their most ambitious project ever. The road to get the result you see in the video wasn't easy. All they can say is thank you for your support and your patience. They are putting their best care on this one. Next up, we're quickly talking about PS Vita modding with VitaShell. And for those who may not be aware, VitaShell is an alternative replacement of the PS Vita's live area. It offers you a file manager, package installer, built-in FTP, and a whole lot more. So at the time of filming, VitaShell version 2.05 has just dropped, and with this version, they've added something here, the ability to refresh PSP games. Next up, this is just a friendly heads up. If you're in the UK, you shop at Game and you've got points to redeem. Apparently here, the points system is shutting down on July 31st. Now, I've heard a lot of conflicting things about Game. If you are in the UK, let me know your thoughts about Game in the comments below, and if you've got points, are you going to redeem them or are you going to let them expire? Next up here, if you're one of the early adopters of the Xbox One, or maybe you're a late adopter of an early version of an Xbox One, you may be running into issues if you're trying to connect this online to update. Apparently, some original Xbox One units are failing to update, which is disabling most console functions online. Now, this started over on NeoGAF, where someone bought a very old version of the Xbox One with some very old firmware on it and was unable to make the jump to the newest firmware, rendering a whole bunch of stuff useless. I'm very curious to see what happens on this one moving forward. Is there going to be a solution? Are they going to have to take steps to update the firmware in steps? Or are they just out of luck? Now, some people were asking if this was CrowdStrike related, which it definitely isn't. So I'm very curious here to see how many consoles this actually affected. I'm going to guess not a whole lot, basically just the ones that are running that old firmware. But it does beg the question, what's going to happen with Xbox One consoles when Microsoft inevitably shuts off service? These things require an online service in order to function for a lot of different things, and without that, they're kind of borked. And speaking about stuff shutting down and preservation, next up we're talking about the Xbox 360 Marketplace replacement. And that's the Xbox 360 Homebrew Store. So yesterday the Marketplace officially shut down. And there is an alternative for homebrew stuff if you're interested. If you've got a 360 and you're curious about this one, I'll drop a link to it in the description below. This homebrew store is for emulators, homebrews, and even more. Now, from my understanding, this does require a modded Xbox 360 console, which does carry its own risks. If you're curious about this and wanted to learn more about it, I'll drop a link in the description below. Next up, we're talking about the PlayStation 5. And if you've got a PS5 and you're excited for Astrobot, you might be excited for this controller. If you're not excited for Astrobot and you don't have a PS5 but you want a Dualsense controller, you might be excited for this controller because I think it looks pretty good. There's a brand new Astrobot themed Dualsense controller up for sale on August 9th. Now this controller will be sold in limited quantities. I don't know what the limited quantity means though. I don't know if there's going to be a whole bunch of them or if it's just going to sell out with the pre-orders that start on August 9th. So pre-orders are August 9th for about $80 for this new controller, and then I think it releases on September 6th. The biggest thing here I can see about this controller is possibly more of an immersive experience with Astrobot, considering it uses that themed controller in it. Next up, if you've got a Linux PC and you like control over coolers, well, you might like this app here called Cooler Control, and it just got a brand new update to accommodate AMD. So at the time of filming, Cooler Control version 1.4.0 is the latest update. There are some fixes, there's some changes, and there's a massive addition here. AMD GPU RDNA 3 fan control. I would say Cooler Control is being very actively developed, seeing a release every month or so. If you are curious about this one, like everything I talk about, link is in the description below. This is 100% free and open source. Next up, we're talking about a brand new ROM hack for Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance. This one is called Fire Emblem Lin's Bizarre Adventure. They say here this is a hack that completely revamps the vanilla experience of Fire Emblem 6. The main feature is Lin herself as the main lord and protagonist. However, this hack also features new units, classes, weapons, graphics, music, and finally new dialogue. If you are curious about this one, again, like everything I talk about, link is in the description below and feel free to check it out. It's up over on romhacking.net. Next up, this one's a quick one, or more of just a quick heads up. So nothing is set to reveal the 2A Plus tomorrow, and they've teased the 2A Plus today. So this is the Nothing 2A Plus. It features a MediaTek 7350 Plus CPU, if I'm not mistaken, two 50 megapixel rear cameras and one 50 megapixel front camera. And the rest of the specs and the pricing are unknown to me at this time. If you've got a Nothing phone, let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts about Nothing in general. Next up, we're shifting from Android to iPhone, and this is just another quick heads up here. It appears that iPhone will finally be getting call recording. The feature has just rolled out in iOS 18.1 Developer Beta 1. Unfortunately, I've got no idea if this is actually going to make it to the mainline release of iOS, but I'm assuming it is, and I don't know the timelines either. Let me know your thoughts about iOS finally getting call recording in the comments below. Next up, we're quickly talking about a free game up on Steam. This one is called Drawful 2. It is free until August 28th. It's from Jackbox Games, and you may have some fun with it. Now, this game is Steam Deck verified, and it's overall very positively reviewed on Steam with mixed reviews recently. And I'm guessing the mixed reviews came from people who purchased the game before it went on sale for free. The recent reviews here say hopefully it was worth the $0 that I spent on it. Next up, this one caused quite the stir, but turns out it might not be an issue at all. So here's the headline. Skibidi toilet allegedly hits Gary's mod with DMCA strike for copyright infringement. But it turns out that actually didn't happen. So here's one of the tweets. Allegedly, Gary Newman has just received a DMCA notice from DeFuckBoom, the creator of Skibidi Toilet, over the usage of his assets in Gary's mod. So here's the update over on Reddit Gmod, and this is supposedly a screenshot of DeFuckBoom over on Discord. And they say, "Sup y'all, is there a way to contact Gary? I did not strike Gary's mod, and I'm trying to understand what else is written in the letter. My gut tells me this is true, but I could be wrong here. Let me know your thoughts about this whole situation in the comments below. This whole Skibidi toilet situation. Next up, we're talking about a brand new Game Boy Color game that's just launched over on Kickstarter. This one is called Winsleys Guardian. It's an action-adventure RPG, kind of like Zelda in a way, and they say it can be completed in 4 to 6 hours. This game currently has 40 backers with 48 days left to go, and it's doing very healthy. It's almost 50% funded, give or take. And the rewards here seem to be very reasonable. The digital game costs $25, the physical card costs $30. And the full in-game box version of this game costs $40. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.